tier lists. You love them, you want them, and that's likely why you clicked on this video. Either that or you just really want to learn more about Phineas and Ferb, which I can mutually respect. However, if you are among the, 8 people that consistently watch my content, you're probably wondering why I'm not doubling down on another 40-minute exploration of how iconic Megan the Ferocious Beast is or something like that. And believe it or not, I can actually explain that away. You see, I don't like lists of any kind, really. Tier list charts, rankings, etc. They are generally not my cup of tea. Anytime I indulge in them here, I try to keep it as neutral or non-competitive as possible. That Disney XD video is more than an anthology of anything else. If I had stuck a top label on that joint, I probably would have been shoved in a locker for presumptively arguing that the 7D is more worthy of a label than something like Randy Cunningham. For TV shows and such, a popular listing can easily change some minds and shift the course of the discussion. We can only take them as seriously as the qualifiers we use to judge them, but them being so subjective in opinion and more tied to one's taste than anything, we can only take them so seriously. They're absolute without being made absolutely. That's where the icebergs come in. The purpose of an iceberg chart is to share various phenomena related to the topic from most to least well known. For animations especially, it can be a pretty good tool, but I've seen mutual smash topics that would normally be a challenge to discuss. They feel competitive in a different way, but they mainly prioritize sharing information most don't typically understand. So, I decided to throw my hat into the ring and debase a topic that I know quite well. While I know 90% of this information off the bat, it was still fun to compile and explain it through this script. Starting to revisit this show in a less cynical way than I normally would makes a subsequent rewatch mean that much more. I could tell this chart was put together by an old soul. Plunging into the depths of Tumblr, this one stems from user Final Vortex. There's 50 terms here and not nearly enough time, so without further ado, let's plunge into the deep dark depths of this video and usher in the Phineas and Ferb Iceberg Chart Explained.
Man, that was lame. Why, if I built a roller coaster, I would... That's it! I know what we're gonna do today!
Tier 1. These first 3 tiers or so are chock full of fun-sized tidbits for folks who have little to no prior engagement with the series. There are some funny ones thrown in the second and third tier, but see how many of you were familiar with if you don't already watch the show. CADU. CADU is the acronym used to denote the Disney Plus original film, Phineas and Ferb Candace Against the Universe. Doofenshmirtz is Phineas's dad. Now this is perhaps the most well-known theory circulated in relation to the show. An assertion is in the title and usually supported by the former's date with Linda Flynn Fletcher as referenced in the episode What Do It Do. Most remember that moment intrinsically, but I doubt most of them remember the episode at large. And here I thought chicks dig giant robots. Anyway, the theory and other chunks of circumstantial evidence have collectively been debunked for eons and likely won't be given any credence by anyone who ever worked on this show.
Okay, this is something everyone has been asking for. Phineas's biological father is none other than... Never gonna give you up, never gonna...
Part of Phineas and Ferb's mission was to put the fun first, and with the creators having experiences with blended families, they wanted to stress that arrangement without attaching any dramatic gravitas to it. In fact, I'd say given everything we know about the show, found family is one of its strongest and most positive themes. Front-facing Phineas. The aforementioned phenomenon is exactly what it sounds like. The show was created in the early 90s, where weird was in. So, with especially flat and angular design, porting these characters into a fully TV animated series is gonna gift us some very awkward frames. Klimpaloon forbid this kid break the 3/4 view. It can have some very unwieldy results. Sometimes cute, sometimes curdling, front-facing Phineas is a highly enduring meme. Marvel crossover. In 2013, the show premiered an hour-long crossover titled Phineas and Ferb Mission Marvel, wherein a few of the Avengers and Spider-Man end up contacting the Danville faithful after losing their powers. Though it was a peculiar piece of media by design, I will admit, it was not confirmed to damage the children's eyes or souls, as one may be led to believe. Barry's origins. Perry the Platypus's official origin story was revealed in the 2011 original TV movie Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension. Being a longtime agent of A.W.C.A, the organization without a cool acronym, he was sold to his host family under relatively normal conditions. Him being chosen wasn't by design specifically, but the scene with him being chosen was pretty damn cute anyway. The Star Wars crossover. In 2014, the show premiered another hour-long crossover, this time titled, of course, Phineas and Ferb Star Wars, wherein a non-canonical set of characters are placed into a version of the Star Wars universe where they have fun, financially viable adventures from Tatooine all the way to the Death Star. For the official pitch meeting, Dan and Swampy were escorted to the meeting room by stormtroopers, and I just felt the need to point that out because it was pretty cool. Timeline inconsistencies. Honestly, this could allude to several things. As we delve deeper later down into the chart, Phineas and Ferb, as you'll come to discover, has a long history of fiddling with time, space, physics, and everything in between. In-universe and otherwise, these characters have stretched the limits from the 9th dimension to the 11th hour. At its most basic meaning, this could just be referring to continuity problems that every cartoon has. It could quite literally mean anything, but we'll explore some more nuanced answers a bit later. For now, we're moving on to...
Unfortunately, my birthday has always been the lousiest day of the year.
Tier 2. Candace is delusional. Now this is quite a common rebuke for the character, especially early on. Aside from the numerous cartoon theories trying to push the legitimacy of said concept, many characters do not take Candace seriously and may allude to literal delusions of grandeur when busting comes up in casual conversation. Her own mom was so unfazed by her high-strung machinations that she proudly used her busting attempts as stand-up material. It's odd because the show has made a concerted effort to be funny without going overboard with trademark stupid or mean characters. The mockery doesn't typically extend past a scene or two, but in hindsight, it's slightly uncomfortable. At least nowadays. It's a bit of bite left over from the initial pitch that might have had more drastic implications than Snarky Phineas, for example. It's part of why I admired the Disney Plus movie and what it tried to achieve. Probably won't revisit it too often, but they definitely tried to give this highly publicized character a very underutilized inner voice, and the humanity clearly shines through. Doofenshmirtz is an ocelot. In the half-hour special Chronicles of Meep, Doofenshmirtz revealed that for most of his childhood he was raised by a troop of ocelots after being disowned by his biological family. This background note later qualifies him to work with A.W.C.A in episodes like Agent Doof and the A.W.C.A Files. Live stage show. From mid-2011 to early 2013, the series had a live stage show touring the States, aptly named Disney's Phineas and Ferb, the best live tour ever. While being quite a benign product by series standards, it gained quite a bit of reputation for being unintentionally cringy or scary, even to a mimetic degree. When I was younger, I got to see it myself, and admittedly, it seemed like it was for even younger viewers, but it didn't seem like anything too terrifying. Ironically, had it courted a more consistently elementary group of viewers, it probably would have imprinted on more of us in a much more strong way. Milo Murphy's Law. Milo Murphy's Law was a Disney television animation original conceived, pitched, and greenlit towards the tail end of Phineas and Ferb's official run. When wrapping up post-production with a skeleton crew, Dan scribbled a doodle of the aforementioned kid and his dog, Diogi. An executive was all over it before it began, and by late 2016 it hit the silver screen running. Being notoriously short-lived, the series is known for its eccentric characters, semi-serialized format, and its continuation of its predecessor's musical legacy, among other things. An hour-long crossover with Phineas and Ferb officially confirmed that the two shows not only take place in the same universe, but that both casts are literally a town or two over from each other. Its story was never resolved, but it's said that because Milo is a fairly popular offering on Disney+, it might even be optioned for a special or two down the line. Mysterious Force. This is a philosophical concept coined by Candace, only being officially introduced in Across the Second Dimension, wherein said force is the cause behind each big idea vanishing before her mom can see it. A deleted scene complete with a single gave the concept an interesting aura, but by the end of the movie she started to believe that the inventions disappear because she tries to reveal them, not the other way around. Stacy and Ginger are sisters. This was a minor theory that had the fandom consensus for a while. It was confirmed in a 2012 fan correspondence and later confirmed in universe through the episode For Your Ice Only.
Why do my nostrils whisper to me?
Tier 3. The Bug Trio. This Bug Trio was a grouping of characters present in the original Pitch Bible. They had never made an appearance in the series proper, but they became a spot of comedic relief in the quasi-backdoor pilot, the A.W.C.A Files, wherein their attempts at communication end in wacky hijinks.
Wow, it's a good thing that lid didn't fall on us. That would have hurt.
Well, yes, Wendell, that was fortunate.
Django and Ginny are siblings. Like the similar entry in the previous tier, these two characters were confirmed as canonical siblings after wider fandom speculation. This relationship was once again confirmed outside of series canon first and later appeared together in the episode The Innator Method. Doof's Daily Dirt. The eponymous title was given to a digitally animated web series released from 2013 to 2014. In a twist of fate foreshadowing the character's mark on the franchise's marketed appeal, the character mainly got an opportunity to ramble about the various trendy things and phenomena around him.
Are you ready for this? Troll-a-lo-la-lo-lo-lo-lo-lo bananas.
Truly, this was the will of the people. At certain points, the show has also a cross-promotional tool, hyping up future events such as the Marvel crossover and his appearance on Shark Tank. Most of the episodes are archived on YouTube with a dedicated channel to consolidate most of the entries. Gravity Falls cameo. This is likely a callback to Alex Hirsch's involvement in the Tri-State trilogy of Terror Special. Told as a trio of spooky stories to various groups of characters, the third story involving mutant platypi turned feral with grape juice ended on an oddly surreal note.
You've saved my factory!
Look, everyone! It is Officer Concord, the Juice Time Juice Box Flavor Cop!
Officer Concord happens to be voiced by the creator of Gravity Falls, hence this term. Not LP Quantum Canon. So the Not LP abbreviation short for Night of the Living Pharmacists, and a long-haul hour-long special released in the show's last few months. It's a great Halloween special centered around Danville being slowly taken over by the aforementioned zombified living pharmacists. It's all hands on deck while our intrepid heroes get from place to place to reverse the contagion. By the tail end, it does appear that the day is saved, until the camera pulls back and reveals that the city is walled off from another slew of Doofenshmirtz-grade zombies. The ensuing scene confuses the ending even more.
Horror movies. Scary, but so unbelievable.
Now understandably, there's a bit of a discrepancy as to whether or not this is canonical, or at least to what degree. If this really was canon, which is a reasonable enough turn to take, we'd have to question where it fits in chronologically. Phineas and Ferb feels like it has 10 endings, so finding that out deserves a video in and of itself. I found this tier list that's a good jumping off point into such an undertaking. Original roller coaster pitch. In an odd form for a series of its ilk and time period, Phineas and Ferb's pilot episode Roller Coaster was pitched in animatic form. The whole thing was released as a 21-minute featurette on one of the early DVDs, and of course it's uploaded back to YouTube by this point. It's a fairly well done piece of early series history wrapped up in a neat little bow. No innators required. Phineas and Ferb are luck gods. This is essentially an extrapolation made after years of observing these kids get away with anything and everything conceivable. The main structure of the show necessitates that their activities never be compromised, with only a handful of episodes really exploring what that might look like or how that comes to be. The crossover with in-universe cousin Milo Murphy's Law gave us a more concrete explanation for the boys' perpetual good fortunes, but if you had never seen that prior, you might just assume that these two were forcing the hands of the fates themselves to make every day their best day ever.
Nothing.
Tier 4. We've gotten to the middle of the iceberg, the true belly of the beast. Interestingly, I think this tier and maybe the next serve their purpose the best. These are mostly just filled with fun trivia and callbacks I think most casual fans would actually be quite oblivious to. Stuff like the aerosol can edits. This is one that I actually didn't recall immediately. Derived from the episode Ain't No Kitty Ride, Doof's plan to burn his name into the ozone layer with aerosol products was not received kindly by just his nemesis. Several months after the episode's premiere on both Disney XD and Disney Channel, Disney's communications department received a strongly worded letter from none other than the Consumer Aerosol Products Council, or CAPCO for short.
To whom it may concern, this email is regarding misinformation on the Phineas and Ferb cartoon episode Ain't No Kitty Ride. In this episode, Dr. Doofenshmirtz is gathering up the aerosol cans in order to spray his name in the sky and burn a hole in the ozone layer. We are writing because of the very negative tone towards aerosol products and blatant misinformation presented in the cartoon. The cartoon tends to have somewhat of a science learning and inventive undertone, so it's even more concerning that children are being presented with misinformation about aerosol products and their impact on the environment.
Take it easy, it's just a drawing.
One cannot precisely quantify the effects of such outrage on sales figures, but either way, Disney decided to appease their beleaguered combatants with one simple fix. Doofenshmirtz's explanation of the plan was nondescript in form and didn't single out any specific theoretical ozone-depleting gases, so in reciprocal, Disney had its ending rebuked redubbed so as to absolve the suspect aerosol products of their imaginary sins.
Oh, nice. Nice one. Catch the villain in his own trap. That's not ironic, Perry the Platypus. It's cliché. That's what it is. It's just plain lazy on your part. Oh, you know what? I don't come to your house and... Wait, this doesn't have any chlorofluorocarbons in it at all. These aerosol cans are completely harmless. What was I thinking?
Ah, the law of equivalent exchange. Buford's molds. This is a callback to the aforementioned quirk in
I am a platypus!
an episode centered around getting a liquefied Candace back to her normal self.
Tell me again, why you have a life-size mold of Candace?
I got life-size molds of all my friends.
I'm not so sure how I feel about that.
Fireside Girls pilot. Following Phineas and Ferb's early success at the tail end of the 2000s, Disney was reported to be considering a spin-off just for the Fireside Girls, in addition to another project we'll cover a bit later. If I recall correctly, Swampy said it would likely be for a slightly younger audience while not encroaching on Disney Junior's territory. Giant Floating Baby Head origin. The Giant Floating Baby Head is a recurring background character existent since the show's first season. I'm sure this is alluding to some deeper mystery or conspiracy, but by this point we know that Mike Diedrichs and Rob Hughes were more or less credited with the creation of subsequent furthering of this character. Intersex Perry. It's a running gag cooked up by the fandom based on a few contrasting details supplied throughout various episodes. Through the magic of TV cartoon writing, Perry's allowed to do a lot of things most wouldn't expect, like walk on all fours and fight evil Germanic pharmacists. Yet a few viewers were privy to how a few more anatomical details throw the character out of whack. Attributes split between sexes like poisonous spurs and sweating milk are both actions Perry has carried out in the past. The episode aptly titled Perry Lays an Egg pulls even more into question when Perry is thought to have, of course, laid an egg. The Flynn Fletchers have always called him as male, and even once the kids discover the egg, they don't stop referring to Perry as such. So one of the easiest explanations used to explain all this away would be to give Perry the intersex label. Apparently, platypi have 5 sets of chromosomes that determine sex, so that line's sufficiently blurred enough to make this a feasible possibility. Llama legislation. This seems to be a callback to the throwaway line uttered during Phineas and Ferb Quantum Boogaloo.
Gotta go, Stacy. Good luck with that llama legislation.
Multiple timelines. Phineas and Ferb as a concept is, again, no stranger to odd-dimensional setbacks and time travel shenanigans. The aforementioned special, Quantum Boogaloo, is likely the basis for this entry. Phineas and Ferb travel exactly 20 years into the future and stumble into familiar faces, locations, and similar situations. The boys are largely nonplussed by what they find. They just came to get a tool that was ahead of its time, but other characters like Candace and Isabella get to ponder the status of their advanced selves in the future.
And that girl looks like Aunt Isabella. Did you hear that? Aunt Isabella. That means I'm gonna marry Phineas. Or Ferb.
Of course, with the butterfly effect in full view, literally anything from the past could alter the future, which is also explored. Though the concept itself plays more into dimensionality than anything, the series entertains the possibility of numerous timelines the cast would indulge in. Napkin sketch. This is an innocuous reference to the very first concept drawing for the show, a rough sketch of Phineas scrawled on a napkin by Povenmire at dinner. Perry's girlfriend. A humorous reference to a great cameo made by Seth MacFarlane in the episode Nerds of a Feather. At a general sci-fi convention, Doofenshmirtz pitches his idea for a 70s-era buddy comedy with ninjas to MacFarlane's character, a network executive. Despite the entertaining yet surreal play-by-play, the exec has fallen head over heels in love with the idea after a few minor concessions. Though it seems like Doof may have gotten the green light, one last request seems to have pushed him over the edge.
Just a thought, though. Can we give the platypus a girlfriend?
What? Never! Oh, suddenly you know my characters better than me? Forget it. I'm no sellout.
Something show business? S-word of the day. In the episode Lots-a-Lot, Phineas and Ferb are intermittently seen crafting up a list of obscure words that start with the letter S. Apparently, children do not default to words like shenanigans or simultaneously, after years of having it parroted in cartoons just like these. It's a point I seldom hear being argued.
Dr. Coconut, look out, here he comes.
Tier 5. Third Dimension Zebra Lore. Okay, so I think most of us are aware of the talking zebra in the room. We're far from the only ones that see him, but far fewer know of his origins. Having been thought as a hallucination of Candace's prior, Across the Second Dimension showcased him cavorting in one of the many alternate dimensions. It's possible that he hops dimensions as easily as he coexists, but it's far from clear how he'd do so. There's also been separate pieces of evidence to suggest that he's not as ethereal as one might expect. Baljeet swearing. This is actually a pretty cool callback to a scrapped song demo written for Roller Coaster the Musical. As you recall, not every mainstay supporting cast member was in the pilot episode, so this song was a chance for Lawrence, Buford, and Baljeet to talk about their surreptitious accesses.
When Phineas and Ferb built the roller coaster, we mysteriously were not around.
As the tag would suggest, the latter gets a bit more mileage out of it towards the end.
Yeah, it is strange, isn't it? I mean, look at this thing. No, the fucking aglet, the phone rings. Yeah, come help me spread word about the aglet. No, but that magnificent roller coaster, does my phone ring? No. Fuck you. Phineas, fuck you. Ferb, fuck you. I'm going home. Fuck you, both of you.
I'll give it to them. I think it's definitely in character for him. Like, by this episode, I could definitely hear that coming from him. Django is Swampy's son. This is just a reference to the namesake of the character being Swampy's son in real life. In similar fashion, the multifaceted Fireside Girl leader was named after Dad's daughter, Isabella. Cockapoo is Phineas's dad. Cockapoo, voiced by Ben Stiller, was the main antagonist of half-hour special The Beak and enterprising supervillain. I figured it was a reference to this chicken and the egg quip they made during the battle, but I doubt that that's it. The entry's even in quotation marks, so could even be more in jest than I'm imagining. The only thing it could really be is a very loose theory of sorts. Both of the characters have the same desire to have the best day ever. Even if the former is not really allowed to have one, he's clearly been looking for an escape. Both have a unique passion to fulfill two societal extremes. Whether through experience or by fate, they're dishing it out until the bitter end. Yeah, I know that made no sense. It's literally 4 a.m. Okay. Live action movie. At the beginning of 2010 and after the success of the TV movie, development of a live action Phineas and Ferb movie was teased and subsequently greenlit. As of now, it's in steep development hell and has switched directors' hands for quite a while. A full script was finished, but nothing moved past pre-production. At one point, it was described to be a bit of a Roger Rabbit hybrid, with the 2D characters jumping into our world and interacting with live actors. Metalschmerz. This was Doof's original surname conceived for the first pitch of the show. Not much else was changed from finalizing this series' concept, save for his strikingly blonde hair. Monogram thinks Vanessa and Stacy are lesbians. This was an extrapolation made from a choice scene in Drusselsteinoween, wherein most of the main cast ends up at a Halloween castle party held by the Doofenshmirtzes. Monty, Monogram, and Vanessa make it a point to link up after a season and a half of dodging either of their father's line of sight. But when Monogram ends up spotting them anyway, a twist of quick thinking is employed.
All right, Monty, you've got a lot of it.
Oh, hello, Mr. Water and Power Guy.
I'm pretty sure this is the first time they interact with each other wholesale, so all things considered, this is a pretty good way to start off. Nostradamus was right. Related to the same episode containing the aerosol can edits, this was a brick joke orated by the farmer and Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
Well, what do you know? Nostradamus was right.
But I've got you now! Wow! Nostradamus was right!
President Ferb. This is likely a callback to a brief throwaway line from Quantum Boogaloo.
My Phineas and Ferb are 30 years old now. Well, I suppose I could call them, but Phineas is in Switzerland for the awards ceremony, and Ferb's still at Camp David for the—
Bust them!
Don't think about its legitimacy, just take in the hype. Save your own asses. This is likely another callback to an early episode, It's About Time.
And this is one of our most curious pieces, a time machine made by a 19th century scientist named Xavier Onassis.
Just say his name really slowly. Now you've got it. Ultraviolet Perry. You know, I could take a crack at this one, but what else is TikTok good for if not for bringing up useless terminology, right?
Okay, so about 20 years ago, I designed this character. Perry the Platypus! And I colored him a teal green because I just thought it looked cool. But since then, I've had to answer this question a lot. So why is he green? I just thought it looked cool. You know, platypuses aren't green. And kids' heads aren't triangles. What's your point? But guess what just happened? This is a real thing that just happened. They just discovered that platypuses have a special kind of bioluminescence. And in ultraviolet light, they glow green. I called it! I called it! Ah, Patty the Platypus, why are you green again? Is it because Dan was decades ahead of the scientific community? I'm very pleased with myself.
Tier 6. Now this is really just the stupid theory tier. Most of these entries are really just benign things that were spun into fantastically bland hypotheses. Starting off with the Aglet conspiracy. The Aglet conspiracy likely refers to lost continuity established at the end of Tip of the Day, wherein Doof ends up erasing the existence of the Aglet from human consciousness after the boys spend all day hyping it up within the A-plot. The series is no stranger to brick jokes and callbacks, unintentional or otherwise, and as such, the Aglet will continue to be referenced throughout the show, even as soon as mere episodes after its debut.
Oh, where am I? Hey, check it out, an aglet!
Cross-referencing the production codes, Tip of the Day was the first to be produced and aired, so I reckon at least this first callback was certainly intentional. The line starts to blur around the middle of the show where surreptitious reference and untracked continuity collides. Where one may look and find a serendipitously timed reference, others may facetiously coin a whole in-universe conspiracy to explain it away. The more you know. Capybara Perry. A reference to an idea for Perry's original design. While still in development, Dan and Swampy wanted to make sure the pet was a more unusual animal under the guise of retroactively granting more creative freedom. Can't be confined by animal anatomy if most don't even know what you're talking about is an animal. Before they landed on the mysterious monotremes, one such choice was the capybara. Doof is trans. This is yet another popular fan-made theorem, except it's actually got some bite to it. I read an explanation of it from this link, and I definitely got the gist of it more from how it was laid out. The evidence itself didn't push me to a more receptive conclusion necessarily, but reflecting on Hines' story a bit more, it could certainly feed more into that idea. Doubly so depending on what the franchise does with Doof in the future. Ferb is short for Ferbs. Yeah, it's true. It's completely true. It was revealed in an honest-to-God Twitter contest the summer the series ended. Funnily enough, Dan divulged that prior to the official reveal, only about 5 people knew the true name. And I guess I'd have to assume that it wasn't made up on the spot, but I'm in very clinical doubt that it was better than 98.37% of these other entries, made up or not. Linda knew everything the whole time. This is likely an extrapolation of the series' suspension of disbelief. Canonically, Linda has never seen what's going on in the backyard, save for a few choice and relatively downplayed circumstances. She got the animal translation machine at the end of Interview with the Platypus, and even while not being the express reason for said bust, she didn't have any questions about it. So it might be easier for a few audience members to believe that she was in on it the whole time. Depending on how you buy into the next entry, her last role in Last Day of Summer would likely key you into this theory. Most of the series happens within the LDOS time loop. In the mainline series finale, Last Day of Summer, the existence of an old school Inator, the do-over Inator, takes center stage. When Candace and Doof stumble across it, they start using the unrefined machinery to keep repeating the then current day, the aforementioned Last Day of Summer. So after so many unvetted uses, they start to create rifts in the space of time that wipe whatever is pulled into one, from the memories of everybody in the affected timeline. With this established, the initial premise would likely allude to 2 observations. Early on, there was a montage of Candace's further busting attempts playing out in real time. She would always pick up on notes from the previous day and adjust accordingly, and while the invention was largely the same, the execution on how it was used, and subsequently how Candace would carry out the bust, was altered due to Phineas's spontaneous inspiration. So while everything changes around them, everything stays the same, and nearly everybody's none the wiser. Ignoring the gradual shortening of each day or the gaps in awareness, it does mimic the affecting structure of the series. In a broader sense, you could also use that to explain things like continuity error number 67 found throughout the show. Loose continuity means any number of establishing premises could give the never-ending summer real weight. Like I said earlier, time traveling and its varying dimensional continuities are native to the world at large. There's no one real explanation for anything, which is part of the premise inherently. So in theory, anyone or anything that hasn't been addressed really could have been sucked into a dimensional rift. It likely would be anything piddling in comparison, like a random sock or all of Django's screen time. Of course, that would open up another line of questioning, but it wouldn't be a Phineas and Ferb theory if it wasn't keeping the audience on its toes. Monty Monogram location. He was mentioned before, but, I didn't get to explain him very much, so, let me elucidate. Monty was a supporting character introduced in the second half of the series as Monogram's son. He only appeared in a handful of episodes, but he quickly became notable as the man who ruined Ferbnessa, up until the release of Act Your Age, of course. Given his sporadic episode count, this is a pretty vague entry. If I had to guess, it might allude to either his father's more nosy tendencies or his initially striking rooftop fight scene and subsequent exit. Considering how far down it is on the chart, it might be referencing something more obtuse, but also considering that it sits next to Aglet Conspiracy in this final entry, I have my doubts. That being, 3-striped Phineas.
So we're all waiting for the crossover that will air in April, and this morning I checked out the first picture released the last summer and I noticed something. Nothing special, right? Aside the epicness. Everything seems pretty normal. Well, watch what I noticed. Yep, Phineas has 3 orange stripes and 4 white, I think, stripes. So what's so special about it? Friendly remind that Phineas in the actual show has 3 white stripes and 4 orange ones, so that takes us to another friendly remind. In the episode Lost in Danville, Phineas has the exact same outfit as the one of the crossovers. Imagine, at the end of the episode, we find out that it's placed in an alternate dimension where Phineas has 4 white stripes instead of the orange ones like in the first dimension. Also, Lawrence is a polar bear, but that doesn't really count. So, let's repeat again. Phineas from the crossover has the same outfit of the Lost in Danville Phineas, who is from a parallel dimension. In conclusion, I have 3 theories about all of this. The crossover takes place in a parallel dimension, so Milo Murphy's Law has always taken place in another dimension. It's just an animation error, or Phineas has just decided to change outfits.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. Tier 7. Here we are, arriving at the pure briny depths. Normally on an iceberg chart, you get the most infamous, spooky, or generally unknown phenomena related to the subject. But in this chart, there's only one such term occupying the deep. Phineas and Ferb is an in-universe show directed by Buford. Ominous, ain't it? I wish I could spin a tale as eerily fitting such a quip. The truth will probably not shock you. This entry chalks up to a single brick joke dropped in the middle of Phineas and Ferb Save Summer.
Buford! I think there must be something wrong with this program.
It's just surprisingly underwhelming, albeit a little humorous. Well, there it is. We've reached the tail end of the Iceberg Chart. Hope you got a lot out of it. I hope you came away with some more facts to spit at your friends. I hope this reignited some interest in watching the show, perhaps. You might have heard a few of my friends, all throughout the video. We had actually formed a Phineas and Ferb themed collaboration last summer, where we all made videos relating to the show leading up to the release of that Disney Plus movie. You can go check it out. Links are in the description and everything. If you want more Phineas and Ferb content, I'm bound to make some every year or so. So, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And remember, carpe diem.